Long live play.
Hello and welcome to the 40th episode of Long Live Play, the number one Australian PlayStation podcast full of lukewarm takes and mental breaks, hosted by myself, Govinda Whitehurst, and the Sully to my Nate, Mr. Khayl Adam. If you like what you hear, you can and should review us on Apple Podcasts or follow us on Instagram and Twitter at LongLivePod. With that out of the way, Khayl, there you go.
Govinda, I am wonderful. I am rested. I am well in both body and spirit. I have had 4 days off hanging out with my family. I drank, I ate. I did not get to play any video games, but I did have a good time. So yeah, I'm pretty good. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. I also spent time with your family, just a little bit of time. I was locked out of my work computer as of Friday last week, so I had Monday off, which is awesome if I wasn't a contractor, because then I don't get paid. But it was still awesome because I got to play more Elden Ring, which, again, is awesome. Have I said awesome enough? I'm doing awesome. How are you? Wait, I asked you that already. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we did that. No, we had a good time, didn't we? We hung out. We saw the Uncharted movie, which we'll talk about in a little while.
We did. I also have seen The Batman as well. I had a very movie-filled week.
I feel, how do I say this, betrayed, jealous. I feel negative about that news.
That I've seen The Batman and that you have not?
Yeah, I feel left out. I know you live a long way away and it would be difficult for us to do that.
We saw a movie together, and that was Uncharted, and we'd planned that, and we saw that, and we watched it, and we enjoyed it, you know? And
it was a good time.
Spoiler alert, I enjoyed it, I had a good time. But then I was like, it's not enough. I haven't seen enough, and I need to see Robert Pattinson or Cedric Diggory, Edward Cullen even, transform into the Dark Knight himself, the Batman. Not Batman, the Batman.
So, I am confused because it's been getting very mixed reviews. You were very positive on it. Why?
Yeah, very, very, very much so. It goes for a very long time. That's like one thing. And I'm at a point now where maybe it was a little too long. 3 hours, I'm like, ugh. It was like when I saw Dune, I was like, you're just a little too long. But it had my attention for the whole movie. I thought the Riddler was very good. Not maybe as good as Jim Carrey's the Riddler as in, Batman Forever?
That's an interesting call because he is so cartoonishly campy.
Hey, those movies have a place, right? I think there have been no bad Batman movies. I think they were what they were for their time, and they were fine. I have to say, Colin Farrell played a very good Penguin. Again, arguably maybe not as good as Danny DeVito.
That is a tough one to beat.
Mainly because he's so short, he is kind of like the perfect Penguin. No, it was very good. It was a lot more grounded, I guess you would call it. The Riddler take was very much more of a, like, anarchist than just some weird dude in a lab that got shit on and then he gets mad and starts doing weird puzzles. So, yeah, look, it was just very dark. I understand they announced it was a PG movie and everyone was upset about that, but really, like, you couldn't tell it was a PG movie. It was still dark and people getting shot and fights and whatever. It was really good. My one thing is I think maybe Pattinson played Bruce Wayne like a little too emo for me. Very emo.
We've talked about this, but I'm here for Robert Pattinson, and I'm also here for it's Paul Dano, right? The Riddler.
Oh, the Riddler was really good.
He's a new favorite. I do like that young man.
I hope it's not the end of the Riddler. I hope we see him again. Hard to know, but they do have a little scene in the end of the movie that is very interesting with another someone. No spoilers there, but there's just a little scene in there.
Post-credits?
No, pre-credits. Pre-credits.
I might see this tomorrow.
It's look, I really enjoyed it. I got out there and I was like, that was sick. I'm glad I went. You know what I mean? This is not like when I saw that Superman movie with Henry Cavill and walked out being like, what the fuck?
What the fuck is that? I didn't hate the first one. The first one, you know, that was all right.
I forget what it was. There was a point where like him and Lois Lane were kissing while the city was being absolutely destroyed. And my thoughts just went straight to like, maybe not the time for it.
Yeah, this is quite self-indulgent right now.
just really quickly, just to cap it off, I liked it a lot because it was maybe the only Batman movie I've seen where Batman feels like a detective.
Yeah, sure. That is
Like, he's
usually
actually got to
overlooked.
solve stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little bit convenient the way things, like he finds things and whatever, but it's a movie. You've got to move the story along quickly. I wish I knew her name, but I'm blowing it. The woman who played Catwoman did a really good job. Zoe Kravitz nailed it. Really, really good. Honestly, like I have to say, performances all around were really great. It was just a good movie. I'm a big fan. The emo Bruce Wayne did give me feelings of Spider-Man 3 when Tobey Maguire was in a black suit. Everyone remember that iconic scene. But overall, I'm a big fan. I don't know how I would score it, but it was very enjoyable, and I think you will enjoy it thoroughly if you like the Pattinson.
This is a very dumb question, but I assume it's set up for a sequel.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The scene I said at the end where, like, there's another dude, like, that is kind of the setup for the next movie with a bit of a hint, and it's, I'm intrigued to see how it goes. And I also really appreciate there was no origin story. Like, we know how Batman became Batman. They do a bit of exposition to kind of get you there, obviously, because it is kind of tied into the story that's going on.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was very good. I liked it a lot.
I'll definitely go see it. And while we're here, I suppose we might as well just jump into the Uncharted movie. It makes sense
as well. We got a sort of a big episode, surprisingly, so we might as well get it going.
Top level thoughts. Well, straight off the top of the dome. What do you think?
We saw it together, but your wife was there as well. And when we got out, she explained it pretty well. She was like, it really reminds me of like those 90s blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
And it really did. I liked it a lot more than I expected to, but that was me setting myself up for that because I was like going in thinking it was going to be absolute hot trash. But it was fun. It was a fun movie, and I enjoyed it. I like that they didn't do the game's plot. They just kind of made their own amalgamation of plots and made this their own story, which made it probably better rather than trying to mimic a game. But overall, I had a lot of fun.
I kept thinking like it could have been so much worse. Like it was an enjoyable time. I had fun the whole way through. Like there were, like I was describing it to you as my gamer treats. There were like the nice little Easter eggs throughout. Like if you've played the games, there's a few nice little moments for you, and you're like, ooh, I get that reference. That's for me. Yeah,
it was just a fun movie. I am disappointed. It's hard because I don't really want to spoil it for people.
Oh, we won't spoil it.
So I'm not gonna. But look, I'm not gonna spoil it. There's just something there. We kind of predicted it when we were talking about it and looking at the trailers, and it was as we predicted, which was a little disappointing, but it was actually like surprisingly funny.
Yeah, and that part of that, I think the weakest parts for me were the characters, weirdly, although not Tom Holland. And the funniness, like, if I just saw two scenes, he could almost be doing the Spider-Man shtick. It's sort of that comedy. It's weird because he's a little more confident, but at the same time, he's sort of a little bumbly.
Yeah. I was going to say, Tom Holland plays a Tom Holland character, right? Like, I feel like everything I've ever seen him in, he's just kind of Tom Holland. And that's like the one thing. I'd say like Nathan Drake needed to be more kind of cocky and confident than he was. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I thought Chloe was good.
Chloe was great. I actually liked that.
There was a weird kind of, not an anticlimactic part, but a weird little turn right towards the end that I thought was, I don't know, with the antagonist, which I thought was a little bit strange, and like they just felt like they had to have a twist, so they did this thing at the end.
There were...
and I felt... meh.
There were some weird sort of decisions made, which I almost wish we were going into spoilers, but like the obsession with twists and double crosses, like there's so much happening and this movie like changes direction so many times. It gets a little much, and some of them sort of, I don't know, isolate characters, make some characters feel less useful than others, and
100%. And then all of a sudden other characters become very important out of nowhere, and you're like, what's going on? Kind of like Batman, but to the nth degree as well. Like them going on their little like, we got to find clues and how to find out where we're going. Like, do you see anything where you are? And it's like right in front of them, clear as day, chiseled on the side of a fucking fountain. Like, it's like, okay, they're not even hidden clues at this point. Like, they're just in your line of sight. You're not even trying to hide them. But again, it's a movie and you're trying to move the story along, so you can't have them like actually looking too long.
Yeah.
But, very convenient clues and puzzle solving.
The action scenes were great. Like, a lot of that was, like, awesome, well done. It could be right at home. There's actually, like, the climactic scene right at the end I think, could be in a game.
I was thinking the exact same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, especially a Naughty Dog game, it feels like those climactic scenes in Uncharted, the big scenes, like, where you're on the cruise ship and it's, like, falling over and waves are crashing and it's sinking, whatever. It feels like one of those kind of set pieces in a movie. And I'm like, oh, man, I wouldn't be surprised if Naughty Dog stole that and put it into a game.
Yeah.
It would work very well. I did like that last scene, as obscene and physics-defying as it was.
Somehow we haven't talked about or even mentioned Mark Wahlberg. I think he was the weakest part, unfortunately. Like, Sully doesn't really feel like Sully. He feels like Mark Wahlberg.
Well, that's why I was like, I think Chloe was really good, but I think the main characters of Nathan Drake and Sully were kind of weak because they just again felt like Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. Like,
I will say that at least Tom Holland got there, and there are a few moments where you're like, okay, this is at least a young Drake, and I can kind of get on board with it. Like, but Sully doesn't, he's just kind of, I was saying it to you, it's like the other guys with Will Ferrell. He's sort of that character again. Like, he's just...
I get this is early in their relationship, right? It's like their first thing together. You don't really get to see that in the Uncharted games at all. They've been seasoned friends for a long time, but there's just
actually
traits
you do,
of
Govinda, in Uncharted 3, but I'll let that one go.
What's their first thing together? What's the first heist? Because I get, like, when they meet each other, when he's a kid.
When they meet, I mean, when he's
That's
a
not
kid.
what I'm talking about. No, I guess it's a different meet in this movie. They kind of changed the
but
canon for the movies.
They do show them, like, literally meeting in this movie, which kind of makes it weird as well, because you're like, why do you... I don't know, like, why are you willing to go with this strange man on a cross-continent treasure hunt?
They just gave Sully these character traits that seem not like the game character, if that makes sense. Like,
Too
they
selfish.
make him way more deceiving and selfish and stuff.
Yeah,
whereas in
yeah.
the game, he's almost like looking out for Nathan Drake and is not a father figure, but kind of, you know what I mean?
Put it this way, again, we mentioned there's a lot of double crosses. I can't really imagine Sully actually double crossing Drake, and that doesn't happen in the games. Like, you know, it's
and not to say it really happens in the movie, but it's heavily implied for a lot of it.
Yeah, they just don't trust each other. They just sort of, you know, there's a lot of that, and it just feels a little off because you're like, no, Sully's the fucking boy. He's always there. Like, he always comes through. It's.
And then they do the little bit at the orphanage between Nathan Drake and his brother, which I think was the cringiest. Oh, so cringe.
I'm so lame for that stuff. Like, when they did the sick, like, Parvis Magna bit, I was like, all right, that's actually, I was sold on it. I like that.
I guess so, but that never came back into it at all. But it's beside the point. I liked it. It wasn't amazing, it wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed the movie and I enjoyed the ride, and will I see it again? Probably not.
No, but that being said, I'm kind of keen for a sequel. Like, I'd definitely see where they go next with this. Like,
well, because they end it in a way where I'm like, okay, that feels more like the characters I know.
yeah, that's what we've been beating around the bush. The final scene kind of gives you what you want, and we'll leave it at that.
Well, even like in the climactic scene, like Nathan Drake like finally looks like Nathan Drake. You know what I mean? And without spoiling what happens and what he does, it's just like there's a bit where you're like, oh, now we're in Uncharted, and this was all like a precursor to the actual Uncharted movie that's going to come out eventually. But look, we don't have to linger too much on it. I just enjoyed it. If I had to score it, I'd say it's like a 7.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it was great while we're in there, but honestly, I kind of haven't really thought about it in a few days. It just happened.
Exactly. Whereas the Batman, I've thought about. I guess I haven't. This hasn't been that long, but I've thought about it a lot. I enjoyed that a lot, and you should see it. And let me know what you think.
Fuck yeah, I'll give you an update next week, Govinda, but I think it's time for us to move. Oh, actually, we should talk about some video games.
Yeah, we changed it up last week, so now we don't even know how to do this game show anymore. This game show anymore. It is a game show, but just not the game show you'd expect. Before we do what we obviously were going to do, I'm going to tell you what I was playing that's not Elden Ring.
I don't know how you actually managed to play anything but Elden Ring, because all I have played is Elden Ring.
Because I go to my friend Sean's house and we don't play Elden Ring. That's how. So I played a game called Moving Out, which I think we spoke about once before on this podcast, but it's made by an Australian developer in Sydney. If you like Overcooked, you will love this game, I think. It's so fun and dumb as just a good little co-op game. And I was even saying to you we should stream this together because it's a good one, especially because we did enjoy Overcooked so much together. But you're essentially just two little things. Like I was a fried egg. Let's be honest. I was a dude with a fried egg head. That's how I was playing. And your job is to move stuff into a moving truck from a house. The way they do it is like some things you can pick up by yourself and you can throw them by yourself. Other things are like they're light enough for you to drag out to the truck by yourself, but if you need to throw it, you need two people to throw it. And then there are other objects like couches and fridges that just need two people to move it. And so when you start the round, it'll show you everything in the house that needs to be moved, because not everything in the house needs to be moved.
Yeah.
And you have to go through and figure out like the most efficient way to get all this shit into the truck. And it is wacky because the controls are a bit shit, and they're a bit shit on purpose.
Yeah,
so
right.
even if you're moving something by yourself, you're like hitting doors and getting caught on things, and like you got to move things out of the way so you can get through. Some levels will have like a pet turtle walking around trying to nip at you, and you've got to like slap it out of the way so you can get around. It's just a fun little dumb clever game. There are boxes that are fragile, so you can't, like if you throw them or if you run into them or you drop them, they'll break.
Yeah.
So you've got to be more careful with them. But then we found out that you can throw and catch, and that's a way to move fragile stuff quicker. It's just a dumb fun little game, and it was a good time.
I'd definitely be keen to stream some or something. I was telling you my fun fact. I actually interviewed to work on this game at SMG Studios. They're based down in Melbourne, where I used to live, and I was wildly unqualified, and I did not get the job. But it was an interesting little series of events, and it's funny though because then after that I never played the game when it came out.
Is it because out of spite you were just upset you didn't get the job?
No, they were actually super cool, and it would have been awesome too. Like it was right near my house, the studio. But look,
now I don't want to call you a liar, and well maybe I do. I actually kind of get a kick out of it. According to Wikipedia, this studio was founded in 2013 and is based in Sydney, Australia.
I mean, I'm not lying. I went to the studio. It's SMG Studios. They had a Melbourne office. I don't know what to tell you.
There we go. Okay. Here he comes. Khayl's lying to everyone. Oh, you know what? I actually, while I was living in Brisbane too, I went to their Brisbane office and I interviewed as well for a role. Yeah. They said it was between me and some dude in Melbourne, but they didn't have an office in Melbourne, so they weren't going to give him the job because that would make no sense.
It was real to me, damn it. How dare you cast aspersions on this, you little fucker.
I still don't even believe you've ever written for a gaming website. I think that's all a lie too.
I can prove it, but
Oh, yeah, sure you can.
now it's time to talk about Elden Ring, Govinda, and we don't need to spend 40 minutes like we did last week. I would love to. I would love nothing more. But this is all I'm playing. I can't stop. It's got to the point. I've done a dangerous thing. I've created another character. I've started again. I've got a sorcery-based character just because we talked about it so much. I was like, I need to get some of this out of my system. I just fucking love it so much.
You're a monster, dude.
I am a monster,
You're an absolute
yeah.
monster. Yeah. It's really funny because it is straight up just like the hardcore Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. Like as if, that game had even passable combat mechanics.
Oh, okay, here we go. We wouldn't have to compare it. I'm just saying, just like, if you think about it conceptually, like, they went from these little dungeon crawler games, that were pretty linear, and like, you just go to different dungeons and whatever, to that crazy open world, where you've got to go do 5 bosses, which is exactly what you did in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, right.
And then all the mini dungeons are just all the little shrines that you had to go to and things. They really did just kind of not copy and paste, but they took a lot of inspiration from Breath of the Wild.
The inspiration is
just like
definitely
Horizon did.
Could you imagine if your weapons broke in like 10 hits in Elden Ring and you just had to get a new weapon?
Oh, I actually didn't even like that in Zelda, to be totally honest.
It was
with you,
awful. It was a terrible
Yeah.
decision. It was like,
Oh, look, I get it, but I also hated it.
that's not the focus of those
I-
games. Like, there's not even like different movesets for the weapons in Zelda. I think it's like there's regular like one-handed weapons, then the two-handed weapons have their moveset. And that's kind of... Oh, and then there's spears. And there's,
There's spears.
stabbing.
You got the bow and stuff as well.
But it's not like Elden Ring where there's like 4 different spears and they have 4 different movesets. Kind of.
Again, why are we compare? I was never trying to compare. I was just saying it's just interesting how much they took from it. Like, you can really like draw so many parallels between the games. It's just this is for grown-ups and that was for children.
Yeah, for little baby boys. Little baby
Inner
boys
children.
on there.
I loved it. Don't fuck.
I
with
loved it
Breath of
too.
the
I'm
Wild.
just talking mad shit.
I really want to see what they do with Breath of the Wild 2, and I'm interested to see.
I'm
how
sorry,
it goes.
were you referring to Untitled Breath of the Wild sequel, which is currently its working title, because that has not been announced. That has not been announced.
Breath of the Wild 2. We all know what I'm talking about. Look, listening back to the episode as I was editing it, it really did. Like I was just trying to find flaws with this game.
I know,
because otherwise we were gushing, right? And then but one of them I stand by. I think Stormvale Castle is a little bit of a not fair. Like compared to every other game, it's amazing. But for a From Software game, I think the dungeon was a little bit meh. And I'm thinking back on it, and I'm like, I think it's because I'm thinking of Dark Souls as not just the dungeons, because the entire game is a dungeon, really.
Yes, that's
because
that's
it's not
right.
open. It's not open, right? So I'm thinking of like every little area we're in is intertwining with shortcuts, and I compare it to Stormvale Castle. I'm like, it just wasn't as great as I was expecting. And then I got to the next big boss area,
Yeah.
which was the Academy.
Yep.
And
Of
I was
Rhea
like,
Lucaria.
this is fucking insane.
Yeah.
And then what I did is I progressed on, right? I beat the boss that's there. I progressed into the next area. And then it really just dawns you. I think around that point, it really dawned on me how fucking monumentally gigantic this game is.
I was trying to like get that across last week because I was sort of where you are now at that point. And I was like, I can't even fathom. Like, yeah, once you hit that third area, which actually opens up into a fourth and fifth, and the legacy dungeon of that area is like, it blew my mind. It still does. That's where I am. Like, I've spent all this time in that area. Like,
it's just crazy how big it is. And like, I look back and I'm like, I need to go back to the other area because like that second area, I really haven't found that much stuff in, like comparatively. So I know there's going to be a shitload more to find, and I've got to go back and do that. And it almost like I was playing on Monday because I kind of had this sneaky day off accidentally, and I just stopped at one point because I was like, I'm a little overwhelmed. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do, and I'm just going to take a moment because I don't know what to do.
It's kind of
Fuck,
interesting.
it's good.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to me that I know that even in the first area, I'm pretty sure you've missed the massive underground, which you can access like from the beginning of the game. There's just a whole nother map under the first area.
Interesting, because I found the underground in the second area.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so like,
wow. Yeah, I did miss it.
and it's probably comparable in size, maybe a little bigger, but there's so much to it.
That also blew me away too, because I found that underground in the second area, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't just a dungeon. Like,
It's
I'm
an
going
area,
through
like,
crazy like ruins and catacombs, and like there's like it looks like there's like essentially a castle under there, which is ridiculous. It's fucked. I don't know how to not play this anymore.
Yeah, and like, you know, we have talked this to death, and we should move along. But the Stormvale Castle thing, like, I would compare that in Dark Souls 1 to something like Sen's Fortress, where it's just like a one and done location. You move through it. There's a bunch of like, you know, obstacles to overcome. Sen's Fortress, like if you look at it wireframe, is like, it's really just a couple of floors, a few small corridors, and then a boss fight. Whereas like Stormvale is like, it's a castle. Like it's a realistic castle that you can see from multiple angles. You can like get up on the battlements, like you get into the gardens, you know, fight your way through the inner fucking courtyard. It's like, it's massive compared to like one area in the original Dark Souls.
It is massive, but I don't know. It didn't feel, and I could be missing stuff, but I did go back through there a few times. But it doesn't feel like there's as many like shortcuts and doors and stuff you can open that'll loop you back around. Like you do kind of just have your little spawn points and your grace sites, and you can kind of just go from there. But it's like you said it last week. Like compare that to any other game ever. Like who's got dungeons like that? And you're right. Like no one really does at all. So I'm only comparing a From Software game to another From Software game, and that's pretty crazy. But it's ridiculous.
Just to, I guess, again, to try and wrap up, like the backtracking thing, I've noticed that too. That I think the idea here is that they just want you to move on to the next area. Like, you're right.
They do have it.
I haven't really found a lot of shortcuts anywhere. Like, you get little ones, but nothing to the extent of the original Dark Souls.
And partly it's because you just don't really need it. And
No.
it's usually not even a shortcut. It's like there's something behind this door that I want to get, like an item or something. You can't get it because you need to find another way into the room, and then you can open that door to get out of the room.
Yeah.
Without going all the way back through the way you went to get in there. So but you don't need them because again, you find so many sites of grace that you can just fast travel.
I listened back to it as well, and it was funny. Like, I was sitting there listening to us speaking, and I like wanted to make more arguments for some reason. But like, the Chalice Dungeon-esque, I think they're called crits. in Elden Ring, and they're they are built from templates. But even just like replaying that first area with this new character and like working my way through them, like just the fact that it's so meaningful, like you get those grave wart plants or whatever they're called, and you can like power up your ashes, and you always get a new ash summon at the end of it, and like there's reasons for it.
But also on the inverse, like some of them feel like they are a little cookie cutter, like especially the ones that are like mines, right? And you've got the dudes mining, and like I've seen areas that have been reused, but then I've also
I don't
gone
like
to
the mines. I actually like outright don't like them. I just force myself because the rewards are so meaningful.
Stones, yeah.
Yeah, that's the upside to it.
But then I found another one, and I was like, this is unlike any I've ever seen. I've gone through, 30 of these things by now, and I've never seen one like this, and it's completely different, and I'm all of a sudden I'm platforming, and I don't understand what's going on, and it's deep, and it has like one of the sites of Marika, and I'm like, oh, why the fuck's this here? And I'm like, oh, it's because you put a platforming section in that's fucked.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm going to die, and I don't want to go all the way back, which I appreciate. But anyway, what a game. What a game.
Are you any closer to going back to Horizon? Because at this point I feel like I've forgotten, I don't know anything else but like strategizing for Elden Ring. I feel like I'm going to have to take some time with Horizon.
This is Breath of the Wild again. Horizon came out, I played it for a week and was like, this is amazing. And then Breath of the Wild came out and I was like, well, I'll see you in 80 hours or so, maybe. I'll loop back around. But there's not, like, I haven't looked at the release schedule for anything, but there's not really anything that I know of that's coming out soon that I care about. So I've got plenty of time.
Just out of interest, I think I had people here all week, but I just hit like 44 total hours across both characters. I only fucked around with the other one for like 2 hours, but main character I've like hit the 40-hour mark. Are you anywhere near that?
31, maybe 32.
Yeah,
maybe.
right.
So I'm getting there. I think I'm level 54.
I will be honest, like the reason I kind of stopped progressing with my main character is I hit a point where I don't know, but I feel like I'm getting towards some kind of end, or even at least like a run-up to one of the endings, and I don't want it to be over. I don't want to do that.
But it doesn't have to be, and that's the best part. It doesn't have to be, because you can just, there's so much you've missed probably.
But I have that weird broken brain where like, I feel like if I see the ending, that will make me less inclined to see everything else.
Well, my thought is, like, don't keep going forward in the story.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, I feel like I want to stop and go wide again instead of, like, focusing through. Anyway, we got a lot to get through. We should actually talk about some other things.
Yeah, and also I need you to update the rubric so I can slap a score on it.
I totally forgot about that. I will do that. Maybe we give it a score next week.
Okay, let's do that.
I think that's fair. That's a lot of time.
That is a lot of time.
Govinda, now it's time for some quick-fire news. God of War is getting a live-action TV adaptation, and it may well be exclusive to Amazon Prime. It's being developed by PlayStation Studios and helmed by the directorial duo responsible for The Expanse. Does this surprise you?
Oh, that sounded like you had more to ask me. It sounded like you were going to say, does that surprise you, shock you? Like you were going to add more to that and you didn't, so it was a little weird, but it's fine. No, it doesn't surprise me at all. It feels like, honestly, based on just like the intro to the Uncharted movie that had the PlayStation Studios symbol, it really feels like they're going to be leaning hard into this.
That was actually very cool, I gotta say. Like, to see that pop up, and you're like, holy shit, that actually is... It means something. Like, that means there's some good shit coming.
Destiny is coming, for sure.
I mean, we know Ghost of Tsushima's getting a movie. I kind of wish it was a series, if I'm going to be honest.
I feel like it can be done in a movie just fine.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right.
It feels like you can do it in a movie. You don't need to do all the shit in that game, and you can condense all of that into a movie pretty nicely, I think.
I suppose, like, now that I'm thinking about that, I almost wish Uncharted was a series.
Honestly, I'm actually stoked this is going to be a series, because I think God of War, like...
Oh, sorry. I meant...
no, I know you're talking about Uncharted.
Oh, okay.
But for this, I think this is sick for a series, because it was... Like, if you do the whole season 1, is this their first journey trying to deal with, like, their mother's ashes and whatever, or the mother's ashes, that would be sick. And then the ending being the ending would be really cool. But I wonder if they're going to do a bit of an Uncharted and just kind of be like, it is going to be God of War, and it's going to be our story.
I could see this as just an early prediction. I could see this being, like, 2 seasons to get through the first game. That would actually give them time to go straight into God of War 2, if they were able to drag that out.
When you say first game, you're talking like the original like PS2 God of War?
No, I think all that stuff is just like a flashback prologue. I think they just go straight into the Norse, the new God of War.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm like, I wouldn't be shocked if they might still do Norse, but they could make a different story altogether.
I have to say, I did see on Twitter, and I can't remember who, but they were just like, get ready for Tom Holland as Atreus. Because why not?
And Mark Wahlberg as Kratos.
Yeah, well, that would be...
Honestly, I think the best Kratos should just be the guy that voices him, that played Teal'c in Stargate.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting. It's hard, isn't it?
It's going to be The Rock. It's going to be Dwayne Johnson.
Honestly, I could see someone like Gerard Butler with a shaved head, like that kind of...
Okay.
He's the 300 guy, right? He's Leonidas?
Yeah, Leonidas.
It's actually Leonidas.
It's not. Watch the movie.
Yeah, they get it wrong, motherfucker.
Look, anyway, it's probably 2 to 3 years away, so let's not get too amped on it, but I'll watch it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. Did you watch The Expanse? That's a good show.
No, I'm not gonna, and you
don't have to.
But no, I heard it was good, and I heard that from you, but I'm not gonna.
Well, yeah, I think that's pretty good hands. That actually, I'm pretty pumped for that. Next up, Govinda, you will love this one. Battlefield 2042 developers DICE are looking to improve the game's largest maps by tweaking spawn points to reduce the amount of time spent slogging towards objectives. 128-player breakthrough has also been deemed too chaotic, and vehicle and player counts may be reduced in order to make the mode I had more enjoyable, but let's just say enjoyable. I think that gets the point across.
That gets the point across. I have nothing to say on this because this game is dead.
It is dead.
I don't think they should keep making things for it. And just take the L. I guess they kind of have to, right?
They can't. They just can't. It's worse for them to do that. I just don't think they can.
They have to keep
do
supporting it. But I would be very quickly diverting people to make a new Battlefield game that is what people actually wanted and not this. And actually commit to it being a Battlefield game and not spend 2.5 years thinking you're going to make a battle royale or a hero shooter and just make a proper fucking Battlefield game.
It honestly feels like that because it's been, 6 months since this came out, and you don't really hear much in the way of fixes. This is the first time this story is kind of, bubbled up to the point.
I literally saw something about a patch going live today, and then it was a video of a dude saying, I saw the patch went live, and I thought I'd check it out. This happened to me 20 seconds into my first game, and he's driving a car that then all of a sudden falls through the map, and he's just in that empty void space outside the map, and I just think you just take the L. You got to keep supporting it, otherwise people will lose their shit and they'll never buy your game again. And you just got to secretly work on Battlefield, whatever. Just call it Battlefield 6, let's be honest, and
go from there.
Make a proper Battlefield game.
Take
and
more
then let
time.
one of those other take more time. Let one of those other developers make the hero shooter that you always wanted, and move on.
The problem, I suppose the real issue here is they did take more time on this. They went away for a few years, and this is what they came up with. At this point, I'm not very confident they can really come back. I think this is deep. This is fucking cyberpunk level.
This damages the brand of Battlefield. It fucks up the brand DICE too. I just think that all the people who make Battlefield don't work there anymore, so it's weird. To be fair though, they did take years to make this. But that's because they were spending most of that time redeveloping it and coming up with new things and trying to make this hero shooter battle royale thing that no one really wanted or cared about. And then it only took 11 months to make this piece of shit.
Yeah. Anyway, it's there. I won't be checking it out. But
No. That's why I'm like, I don't care about this anymore. So yeah, see you later, Battlefield. It was a waste of money. I'm sorry.
Next up, Forspoken, the Square Enix RPG developed by the team responsible for Final Fantasy XV, Luminous Productions, has been hit with a hefty delay from the 24th of May to the 11th of October. The reasons for the delay are vague, and the developers have said that, quote, getting the game right is extremely important to us, end quote. Govinda, I feel like I felt in my bones that there was something off. When this was revealed, it felt... I was trying to say at the time, it felt so empty and weird, the open world stuff they were pushing. And this, it actually does surprise me, but I suppose I don't know what I'm
That's
saying.
a big delay. What's that, like 6 month delay? 6 month
Nearly.
delay?
Yeah, I mean, it was
That's pretty big.
it was only, 2 months away from release. It's, I don't know, I have a weird feeling about this, and I think in my mind, I don't know, I finally made the connection, and I was like, oh, you know what? The open world in Final Fantasy 15 was dog shit too. Like,
I didn't know that they were the same developer until this moment.
yeah, it's not good. I
So the
beat
delay
that
makes
game.
way more sense, because do you remember how like Final Fantasy 15 was kind of like missing just huge chunks of the game, and it felt like they rushed the ending to make it
Yeah.
work, and they were just like, hey, sorry, just to catch up on the story, can you watch this anime and this movie? Yeah, thanks. Bye.
That was a lot. I think, to be fair, I think this Luminous Productions is sort of a new studio that spun off the team that made 15. So it's like not exactly everyone, but that's their selling point, is that they worked on Final Fantasy 15.
Well, we'll see what happens on the 11th of October. But you just went from having this crazy. It's a PlayStation exclusive, isn't it?
It actually, yeah, it is. It is.
So you went from having this crazy exclusive coming out in May, where seemingly nothing else is, to pushing it to October, where you're going to get flogged with releases. So that's an interesting choice for them.
All right, Govinda, now it's time to move into the news we care about, which, as it evolves, is just longer, more in-depth news stories, and that is the differential between that and the quickfire news.
Don't call this out. You just say it, you just move it, and you just get in there, okay? They don't need to know we're dumb.
I like them to see behind the curtain. I like them to get a
No,
full
you don't, because every time I show behind the curtain, you're like, don't show them behind the curtain.
Govinda, the rumors were true. There is a state of play coming, and it's actually really soon. For us, it's tomorrow. It's taking place
Holy
on...
shit.
Yeah, it's taking place on Wednesday, the 9th of March. If you're in Australia, it's 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Check your local region for the exact
So we need to
translation.
change this a little bit, because by the time you listen to this, the state of play has been, and we haven't been able to cover it because we've already recorded this podcast.
It's funny, though, because we're going to speculate, and I suppose that doesn't really make sense if you frame it from the point of view of
No,
the
let's
future.
actually... I've got something fun we can do. We're going to talk about the state of play that has been. So you all might have heard that there was a state of play yesterday at about 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. It was awesome, dude. I think the best part of the show for me was going to be... they've announced the Bloodborne PS5 upgrade, which I'm really excited for. Maybe I won't play it, but I might dabble just to see that 60 frames a second running in that smooth, buttery 4K.
This is cruel.
You know what I'm saying?
Cruel.
The other thing that I'm really stoked for is they finally announced Shin Megami Tensei 5 on PS4, PS5, which is pretty sick. I do like Atlas games, so I might give that a little whirl. Also, did you see that new game from Team Eco in Japan Studio?
No.
Looks pretty cool, looks interesting. I did never play the Last Guardian, but they make interesting games, and I definitely would have a little look at that one. The other one that I thought you would love... Did you see the Resident Evil 4 remake they announced? It was crazy. Hey, dude, you love Resident Evil.
That
That'd be
is
fun.
weird that they would announce that, having it already been announced previously.
Oh, sorry. They just showed more, I think. I thought they...
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't realize
weird.
they announced it, so
That's
that's silly
crazy.
me. Duh. And finally, did you see they announced Persona 6 finally, dude?
Yeah, it's so good.
Biggest one
Can't
on the
wait
show. I'm so excited.
Can't wait to go to the other end of Japan and live there for a while.
Oh, yeah, dude. They definitely showed that other end of Japan. I forget the name of it. I think it's actually on Tsushima Island, right?
That's actually not part of Japan. I just hate that I'm
Shit.
like this. I just hate that I'm
Why
like
are
this.
you like this?
That's enough of your
Yeah, that was
shtick,
pretty sick.
Govinda.
Wait, dude. And the best part of the show is we finally got an in-depth look at Final Fantasy 16, dude. And it looks like the Final Fantasy game I've been missing all these years, except for the action-y side of the combat. I miss that old Final Fantasy 10 turn-based, baby.
I hate that you actually ended on that, because that's what the scuttlebutt is that this is actually going to be our chance to see Final Fantasy 16. I'm actually going to be a little disappointed if that isn't the case.
What do I get if I was right on all counts?
Some kind of, like, attaboy.
I'll take it.
But
I'll
I
take
think those are your actual predictions. I'm confused.
What do you mean predictions? We watched it yesterday.
Yeah. Real funny. Real funny.
Look, I'm going to be really honest with you. Some of them are my predictions. Some of them I just stole straight off a website, and they're 7 predictions for the March 2022 PS4, PS5 State of Play.
We do actually know that it's going to go for like 20 minutes. It's not going to be first party. It's going to focus on second and third party games. It won't be about PSVR 2. I don't know. It's actually quite exciting. It's sort of this isn't going to be about Gran Turismo, Forbidden West. We could see some God of War. That's far-fetched, but it's not impossible.
Maybe we get a release date, maybe, but I don't think for 20 minutes they're going to go into too much God of War, I'd imagine. Just because they said it was mainly third party, and that's very not...
Okay, Govinda, moving right along. Babylon's Fall is fucked and everyone hates it. Is that inflammatory? Maybe not. The critics that even bothered to review it panned it, and the game peaked on Steam with just 650 concurrent players. For comparison, Elden Ring beat its own record over the weekend, falling just shy of 1 million players online at once. The developer Platinum Games and publisher Square Enix even paid a bunch of popular streamers to play it, which is common practice, but in this case it actually seems to have backfired by broadcasting just how bad it is to a lot of people. I don't know if you saw any of this, but this was...
I saw a little.
This was an uncomfortable... I watched some of the live streams and people are just... I can't even remember the dude's fucking name, but it was just he was going...
Alex Donaldson?
Oh, no. He's a journalist. Oh, he shared something. He shared...
Yeah, I'm literally just looking at the article you linked because
You're right, that's actually
literally
what I saw.
I didn't know this game at all until you showed me over the weekend how bad it was doing.
650. That's so wild. That's so low.
That's so low for a launch weekend. It's actually aggressive.
And I mean, again, that's just on Steam, but if that's going to be the case everywhere. This game looks terrible. If you actually watch gameplay of it, this is the service game they're pushing.
Well, I like in the article you've got on Push Square, they even say, as a comparison, God of War, which launched all the way back in January and isn't a live service game, peaked at 5,000 players today.
Yeah. Of 2018. Yeah, January. Yeah.
The PC version.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
PC version came out in January and it peaked at 5,000 players the day they posted this being at 650 and it just launched.
This is I always wonder what this would be like to be in the studio and the director is just fucking contemplating dark things.
Someone's jumping out of a window.
Oh,
the one screenshot they have there is really damning. It just looks so bad.
Govinda, this is, I think, one of the lowest rated PlayStation exclusive, console exclusive titles. It's currently sitting at a 42 on Metacritic, and it has a 2.2 user score.
I didn't even realize it was a exclusive. I heard so little about it that they must not have believed in it. And what marketing push, you know what I mean?
Platinum Games is a really interesting studio because sometimes it's good. I like the Nier series.
Yeah.
And it's it can be rough. You're in it for the story, really. But I don't know. They've had a few big fuck ups. Remember that they did a Ninja Turtles game and it was meant to be great, but it kind of ended up being bad.
Didn't they do all the Transformers ones as well?
Yeah, they did. They
like that.
They weren't great either.
Do they do Bayonetta? Am I correct?
They're doing Bayonetta 3, which is really interesting.
I thought they did Bayonetta. I thought they did Bayonetta 2, which was a very highly reviewed game.
Yeah, people love Bayonetta. And I mean, they do a lot of great games. They did Astral Chain on Nintendo Switch. That was an exclusive. That, went over really well. And they did... You might remember Vanquish on PS3.
Oh, yeah, I do. I never played it, but I think I know people liked it.
It's just they seem to be very hit and miss. And this is catastrophic. This is I cannot imagine how much money this costs. And for them to have sold less than 1,000 copies.
Yeah, look, I didn't know about it until now. I'm surprised that you tell me it's a console exclusive, and I will never play it, especially based on this. I almost want to play it just to see how bad it is. Maybe that's the stream.
Oh,
But then someone has to buy it.
It's full price too.
I'm not going to do that.
I see this thing coming to PlayStation Plus. That's how they try and recoup something.
I don't know why they would. That would be terrible for PlayStation to do that. PlayStation Plus, presumably they have to pay the developer to put it up for free. And PlayStation, why would they do that? To take a hit in... the consumers would be off it. They'd be like, why would you put one of the worst reviewed games on PlayStation Plus for free unless it's a bonus game in a month?
Yeah, maybe they just lowball them. Be like, give you a couple of $100 to
Like,
put
why
you...
pay Platinum Games to put that shitty game there, you know what I mean?
Elden Ring is the best-selling non-Call of Duty or FIFA video game since 2018's Red Dead Redemption 2, outselling the game we swore we wouldn't compare it to, Horizon Forbidden Schmest, or something that rhymes with that, 2.5 times to 1. That means it outsold heavy hitters from previous years such as Cyberpunk 2077 and Assassin's Creed Valhalla handily, ensuring we can look forward to future adventures in the lands between.
Whoa. I don't appreciate the Horizon Forbidden West bit in there, mainly because that's a first-party exclusive game and Elden Ring is on Steam and Xbox.
Yeah, I guess that's a weird example. Let's focus instead on the fact that this outsold Cyberpunk 2077 and Valhalla. Those games are also multi-platform, and they're massive.
Yeah, true, but Cyberpunk suffered from the absolute worst launch. Maybe not worst. There's Battlefield there to contend with, so
But
it probably butchered sales.
You'll recall that it still sold a fuckload. It was just received poorly.
It sure did sell a fuckload, but imagine if it scored like 9s and 10s like Elden Ring did when it came out. I think it'd be crazy. But no, that's not to take away from this. The fact that it's the best-selling non-COD game since Red Dead is hectic.
For a single-player game, I mean, with some multiplayer elements.
And not even just for a single-player game, for a very hardcore single-player game.
I love it. It means we're getting more. I want DLC in the meantime, but I want the next FromSoft game to be Elden Ring 2.
Oh, I think you nailed it last week when you said they can't go back.
Yeah. Oh, well, again, okay, maybe that's it. Maybe I want Bloodborne 2 in the style of this, but...
Oh, there we go, baby.
I don't think that's the case. I got a feeling Bloodborne 2 is coming and it's not, gonna be like Elden Ring. But anyway, who knows?
Yeah, hopefully it's made by From Software, because my concern is it's going to be made by someone else.
That would be fucked if they pulled a Dark Souls 2 on Bloodborne 2. That would...
Anyway, I don't have to talk about it too long. It's a fantastic game, so I get it. It is like one of those generational, like, Breath of the Wild vibes where everyone's talking about it and everyone's playing it and everyone's discovering shit together, and so I get it.
You might notice, Govinda, that we didn't talk about the escalating situation in Ukraine, but fear not, because we're going to. Gran Turismo...
Oh, cool. Before we do that, I gotta pull that up. It was brought to my attention that I, and maybe Khayl also, were saying a lot of the Ukraine, which is incorrect. And it just proves my ignorance and also why we need another podcast to educate me. Because it is not the Ukraine.
It
is just a country called Ukraine.
I think for me, and I've been doing this a lot. I don't know if I did it on the episode, but definitely in private. My justification is I always called it the Crimea, and that's wrong, but there was the Crimean War. And I think in my head, it's I don't know why. It doesn't make sense, but I think that's why I've been saying.
Oh, dude. And I think the thing that gets me is it's got a hard U at the start of it, and you've got the USA and the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're the only hard U's I can think of. And so when I hear Ukraine, it feels like there should be a the in front of it. But then I also understand it kind of harkens back to the USSR, which is kind of not a good vibe at the moment.
No.
Look, apologies for that one. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. And we're going to continue trying not to do that anymore. And it is just Ukraine going forward. Carry on.
Guarantee one of us does it. Govinda, Gran Turismo 7 is reviewing well. The PlayStation exclusive racer is sitting at a respectable 87 on Metacritic and is available now. Well, except unless you live in Russia. It joins a growing list of games that are being used as a form of digital sanction against Russia. CD Projekt Red is now prohibiting the sale of IP like The Witcher and Cyberpunk in the territory, and EA's FIFA and NHL titles have removed Russian teams from its games. The embattled Ukrainian government, headed by President Volodymyr Zelensky, has called upon both PlayStation and Xbox to block all Russian and Belarusian accounts on both platforms and to cancel gaming events in those two countries. I'm sure you've seen this situation escalating, Govinda, in which a lot of companies are pulling out or removing access for Russian citizens. We saw it with Apple and those scenes in the metro where the Apple Pay wasn't working and the confusion that caused. And now it's come to games. I don't like this. It doesn't sit well with me. How do you feel about this?
So I have a lot of thoughts, and I don't have enough information to really discuss it properly, I guess. So what I know is that MasterCard and Visa have stopped use in Russia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, no one can buy anything in any of these countries, in Russia at this point, right?
Using, those...
I don't know if Apple Pay not working was because Apple said Apple Pay is not working, because Apple stopped the sale of iPhones and Apple products in Russia for sure.
Yeah.
But I think Apple Pay not working is more that the card they're using is a MasterCard or a Visa, and they no longer work.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's my understanding.
And so I think about CD Projekt Red's prohibiting sales of IP like The Witcher, and that's because you can't go on a PlayStation and use your MasterCard or your Visa to buy anything.
There is that too, but these companies came out specifically and said, look, we're just not going to allow the sales of them, regardless. Because there's a ways around that. I don't think PayPal has stopped, and you could...
That's true. But PayPal's I guess it can be linked to a bank account, but PayPal's often linked to a MasterCard or a Visa.
That's true.
Card. Or it's then linked to a bank account, and then you're then doing a transfer from a bank account internationally, which has been blocked as well.
Yeah, it's a good point, but this is specifically... The companies have come out and said this explicitly. Like, even if that wasn't the case, you couldn't buy them anyway, even if your MasterCard worked.
For sure. But then I'm like, is all of this moot, though? Because, honestly, they can't do anything. And then I go to, the ruble's dropped even way further than I said last week.
Yep.
1 ruble is now worth 1 US cent, and that was last week's information. It's probably worse than that now.
Yeah.
So... Could they buy anything anyway? How much of these games on the PlayStation Store that they're looking at to buy? They're probably some crazy amount of money.
I think for me, it's more this is too broad. You know, the average person that's trying to, for whatever reason, buy The Witcher 3 in Russia is not to blame. And it seems, I don't understand how this helps other than it sends a message. I see that.
Yeah, for sure.
I just don't think it's going to change Vladimir Putin's mind for CD Projekt to rebuke them like this.
Yeah, true. But on a more macro level, if everything just stops happening in Russia, then Russia has to be self-sufficient in all aspects of the economy, including entertainment and all this stuff. And you get to a point where you're like, okay, well, they're getting crippled economically.
Yeah.
Absolutely crippled. And then you start thinking how long can they last for?
They think at least a year, apparently.
Okay.
Well, this is unprecedented, but that was the news a few days ago, was that, Putin had sort of planned for this and built enough of a cash reserve to inject into the economy to sort of counteract it. I don't think anyone expected it to be this bad, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, it's hard to counteract this. I guess, internally, you can still make things affordable for people to some extent, but... It has these ripple effects too, where the Russian economy absolutely getting decimated is also not great for the stock market and cryptocurrency. And some people are, who knows if it's going to happen, but some people are predicting a semi-global financial crisis again due to the collapse of the Russian economy.
Which is, and again, it just makes me uncomfortable because I think sanctions don't generally work. They have...
Yeah, but they're usually not nearly this aggressive when people get sanctioned.
Think about Cuba. Cuba is still being sanctioned by the US, and they exist as a country. It sucks to live there, but because here's the thing. They want pressure for the Russian people to overthrow Putin. That's what this is designed to do. They want the situation...
That's kind of was my thought,
to become so bad. But for me, I'm I don't know, I'm uncomfortable with punishing innocent people for the crimes of their government. And it's complicated, more complicated.
I totally get it too, and I don't disagree with that. I think it's a bit wild, but then part of it is I get that it's the pressure thing, but they didn't do anything wrong necessarily. It's just Putin and his regime that are just fucked.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of 100 million people in Russia. It's as big as in terms of population, the United States. It's crazy to punish that many people. I do think it will be interesting to see what PlayStation and Xbox do, because could you imagine if they ban all those accounts? They're just done, inactive, gone.
Or they just shut down the PSN in the region. PSN, Xbox Live just gets shut down now.
Yeah, and again, it's this is the real world and obviously far more important than video games, but that's huge. That's such a huge move.
Yeah, I wonder if we will see a Russian revolution.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened before.
Remember the Russian president or presidential candidate that got poisoned and fled the country? I forget his name. Do you remember this?
Yeah, Alexandra something. He was poisoned. Putin poisoned him, and then famously,
and he put him in jail and stuff for ages.
He returned to the country with balls of steel. He came home. And it was a
Is he still in jail?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he's still alive. He definitely went to jail. Do we know if he's alive?
That would be the greatest comeback story ever. It's like a Russian Revolution led by that guy. You know?
Yeah.
I don't even think he was even that good of a guy. But just on a again, we're not even talking about games at this point. But President Zelensky is. Do you know what he was before he was the president of Ukraine?
Yeah, it's funny. I just was talking to my wife about this. Yes, he was a comedian.
And he was in a comedic show where he came out of nowhere to become the president of Ukraine.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, in the show, apparently, I have no idea, I'm just repeating what I heard, he's like a very anti-corruption candidate, and he ran, using the popularity of the show, he formed a political party that has the same name as the show, which I don't know. But he sort of like used the platform and actually became president.
It's crazy because you were saying that dude went back into Russia with balls of steel. This guy, how is he being such a leader and he came up as a comedian? It's blowing my mind. Whereas like Americans, celebrity president is an absolute orange muppet. This guy is an absolute legend.
There was a viral tweet that I really liked, which was, it was something along the lines of, I thought Zelensky was Ukraine's version of Joe Biden. Actually, he's Ukraine's version of Winston Churchill. Like, he's like, he's going to be a historic figure. My fear, though, is that this man is also doing everything in his power to draw the world into a war, and I'm terrified of it because, again, no shade, if our country was being invaded, I would hope our leader was doing everything in the world to bring everyone in. But
our leader would be in Hawaii, bro.
He would.
There's no way he's putting on a vest, taking a video and being like, I haven't left, I'm still here. Like, he would just be gone, dude.
Again, it goes back to last week in the no-fly zone. He really wants that, and I don't want that. I'm scared of that. But we don't have to do this right now.
World War is scary, but... Yeah. Should we end on that morbid note, Khayl?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
If you get conscripted... Sorry, we'll redo that. When we get conscripted... What branch of the military do you want to be in?
That's tough. I think it's got to be Air Force, and I think it's got to be... I mean, I actually, I work in logistics. I could have a nice, cushy job in a warehouse somewhere, and that could be fine.
Yeah. I was thinking something similar. I'd probably go into more of like a technical, technician kind of route, but very much based on the ground.
Yeah.
And not in combat.
You definitely don't want to be in the army, like the infantry, and for me personally, I definitely don't want to be in the Navy. That scares the shit out of me.
No. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If you, when you're on an aircraft carrier, is it a combination of the Navy and the Air Force, or is it just the Navy, or is it just the Air Force?
I think it is different, and especially in America, it's different. I think it's Navy, but they also have the Marines, which is a fourth branch, and I think they have their own shit too.
So if you're on an aircraft carrier, even though there's aircraft on it, it's still a Navy vessel with Navy... Oh, is it Navy pilots?
It is, actually, and I know that because we saw the Uncharted movie, and Sully's backstory is that he was a Navy helicopter pilot.
Ah, there we go.
That's a beautiful full circle.
What a fucking bookend on this fucking episode. All right, everyone. This has been Long Live Play episode 40, the big 4-0. I've been me. He's been him. If you like it, love it, on Apple Podcasts with a 5-star review, please write a review for us because we really would like them. And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LongLivePod. Any parting words, Khayl?
Go see the Uncharted movie. It's surprisingly good.
And I will finish on go see the Batman because it's surprisingly better.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.